everybody. This is Dr. Lori Shemek.
And I'm Omar Cumberbatch. You're listening to This Podcast Burns Fat. Hey, Lori, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you and our listeners and everyone else that we care about.
Yes. I'm so excited for 2025 that
Yeah.
I can't control myself. And I'm so, delighted to kick off the year with you and the audience. And
Same. Thank you.
no, I appreciate everybody. It's going to be an awesome year.
Yeah, it's going to be wonderful. So, and that's the thing. They say don't make resolutions. Well, I'm like, do whatever you can
Hmm.
to make sure you take that one step forward and then reevaluate. And I think that it's just, by not being accountable to ourselves, we're leaving a lot on the table.
Oh, yeah. No, I get why people are hesitant about it, or some people poo-poo it,
Hmm.
but it's a nice reminder, like just
Exactly. Starting over.
yeah, just it's just something that just it's like an alarm for us that we just begin to start to understand that let's recheck in or check in, I should say. And if you need to set some goals, set them goals, or revisit the ones that you might have fell off a
Hmm.
bit. So I love this time of year. It has a lot of hope to it, at least for me.
I do too. Yeah. Good
Yes.
job, partner. High five.
Yes, likewise. And yeah, I'm excited about this guest. He's going to kick off the new year, Joe Hoye, and he is really an awesome person. He's really doing a lot of wonderful things.
Yeah.
Has a lot of experience for a young man, I might say, who's
Hmm.
far younger than myself.
Than we are.
Yeah, but he's very experienced and
My grandchild. No, I'm kidding.
no, yeah, he's got his stuff going on though. He really knows.
Oh gosh, yeah. So Joe Hoye, he's the founder of Hoye Fit, and he, really to date has helped thousands and thousands of people, mainly women, really rebuild their metabolism, ditch their diets, and discover strength that they never knew they had before. And so it was really a pleasure to have him on the show. I think you guys are going to love him because he's just very relatable, personable, and just dropped a lot of gems, actually.
Yeah, no, definitely he did, and it's really interesting that we're having him on to kick off the year because he does this. Well, he wants you to ditch the diets because he does talk about an important part of how diets, continuously dieting can cause certain issues, and he's going to dive into the science
Mm-hmm.
behind that too. So, yeah, let's
Yeah.
jump into the show.
Okay.
Hey, Joe, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I am doing good, Omar. How are you?
Great.
Hey, Joe, so nice to have you stopping by. You're
Thank you,
going to
Lori.
help us midlife people, right? You're going to help
Yeah,
us with
actually, so
hormones and
I'm gonna throw you a curveball in this
oh,
episode
good.
too, because we
Okay.
took a little switch, but I'm still gonna help you midlife women.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I mean, I was curious. Well, please, we want to hear your origin story, of course, but yeah, I'm definitely
Mm.
interested in hearing what the curveball you're gonna throw at us because, definitely we're gearing up for women specifically, and that was one of my questions. How did you land in that arena to begin with, and what was your interest? So I'll let you start and unpack all those interesting tidbits for us, and yeah, jump into it.
Yeah,
Great.
for sure. So that's like always the elephant in the room. And I know that there's not going to be any video at this, but when most people watch, they see a 30-year-old man. And then they also hear that this 30-year-old man is helping 50-year-old women. And then sometimes that's when the pitchforks come out. So like, well, this guy's never going to know. He can't help us. And it's like, well, just hold up a second. So really, it kind of starts when I'm 13 years old. Growing up, my mom was really my strongest, most consistent role model in my life. And at that age, she saw that number one, I was starting to go down a bad path, hang with the bad kids, make bad choices. Number two, I was starting to get picked on at school. So doing dumb shit, losing my confidence rapidly. And she had already been going to the gym. And so she's like, Joe, why don't you come to the gym with me tonight? I think it'll make you feel better. And I was like, well, that makes sense to me. All the guys that go there, they have muscles, they have confidence. That's exactly what I want. So I'd love to go. And when she took me in, I fell in love. And from that day forward, I never stopped going. Um, a little
Wow.
context, I was super tall, super skinny, and like just this awkward teenager growing into my body. Um, but that never really changed all throughout high school, right? I only got taller, which only made me look skinnier, and it didn't matter how much I exercised or worked out, I could not gain size. So from 13 to 18, it just got worse. I graduate high school, move into college and start pursuing a career in the medical field. And with that, I have to start taking courses on anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, nutrition, just things like that, things that change the body so that I can understand the body. And I turn myself into my first guinea pig. So I start applying everything I'm learning from college to myself and I start seeing changes. But at the same time, I'm a kid in college. So I start drinking and partying and I was gaining weight, but I was gaining way too much weight too fast to have it only be muscle. And so
Mm-hmm.
in the span of like a year to a year and a half, I wish I remembered how long. I gained 80 pounds. I went from 145 up to
Whoa.
225. And so then I had a new problem. Like I still wasn't confident. I still didn't love my body. But now instead of being underweight and skinny, I was just fat. And I still didn't like that. So kick the partying, dial in everything I knew from school, and make my way to where I am now, which is like 5'11", 195 pounds. And I liked my body. It looked good. It felt good. It performed well. It made me confident. And growing up in a small town, people knew me at all bodies or shapes. Like, Joe, we knew you when you were skinny. You had no confidence. You were shy. Same thing when you were overweight. But now, what happened? Like, how did you get to where you are? Because not only do you look different, but you're acting different too. Your confidence is way better. And so I had enough people ask me to where I was like, well, shoot, I think I have something here. I'm going to start training people just like me, right? So young men that either want to gain muscle or lose fat and just be confident. And so I start running these online challenges for 8 weeks at a time. I start advertising it on Facebook and Instagram, just naturally speaking the way I speak. I get a ton of signups, but I never really look at the names. And then on day one, I open up Zoom to do my kickoff coaching call, and nobody looking back at me looked like I did. Lori, I can't see your face. Your camera's off, but I assume they look a whole lot more like you than they did me. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, what happened here? And I came to the conclusion that just growing up with my mom and all of her friends, I learned to communicate in a way that resonated with them. So I naturally attracted them. And at the end of that first call, we all had fun. We were all laughing, cracking jokes, smiling. At the end of that first 8 weeks, they all got results. And I was like, well, you know what? I don't care if this is not what I thought I was after. This is fun and I like it. So I'm going to keep doing it. And at the time, I wasn't really making a lot of money from it. Actually, for the first few challenges, I was losing money. So I had to get my job in surgery. I'm working in surgery as a surgical technologist. And again, I get pushed in this direction. I was the one male in that hospital that had my role. It was one male, me, and then 7 other women. And they decided to take me and stick me inside the OB and GYN based rooms. And so, again, getting pushed in this direction, I'm spending 40 hours a week plus on call emergency surgery only on the women's body with doctors that spent their entire adult life learning about that body. And so from there, as we're operating, we're having like casual small talk over the patient. And I'm like, hey, doc, like, what could this lady have done to proactively stay out of the OR and not have this procedure? And so I was picking their brain, taking it with me and applying it to my coaching. And so then I only got to level up the results that I was getting my clients that I kind of decided I was going to work with men and women in midlife. And 7 years later, here I am. And then 2 weeks ago, I made a massive change.
Oh boy.
You did. What is that massive change? Do tell.
So what I realized is, I mean, I've coached thousands of women at this point. And yeah, hormones play a role. But I think there's two things that honestly play a bigger role. And I think that a lot of the women that I coached, they didn't just gain the weight last year. They gained the
Right.
weight in their 20s, in their 30s, in their early 40s, which means this is not the first time they've tried to lose it. It's their fifth, 10th, 20th, right? Some of these women have been on diets since they were a kid. And I realized that I was coaching in a reactive way. I was reacting to a problem that had already happened. And so now, obviously, like I still love these ladies. I'm still working with them. Most of our roster is these women, and we just signed on a few more this week. So it's not like I'm not going to help midlife women, but I want to be more proactive. And I want to help these women from 10, 20, 30 years ago so that they don't run into this problem in their 50s.
Hmm. That's
Can,
excellent. Yeah, because it really it the choices, and we're learning more about this via research now, that we make when we're young affect us decades down the road.
Yes.
So I think it's a really smart, uh, I guess, pivot for you.
Yeah, that's what I've shared this to maybe 4 or 5 people, and that's what a lot of people say. It's like, wow, Joe, that's super smart. Like you're gonna be able to help, you're gonna give yourself a bigger market. And you know what? I guess that's true, but it's not even something I considered. It's just like it was a natural evolution to me to be like, you know what? I hate seeing this problem over and over, and I want to do something about the diets that everybody follows, but nobody knows are damaging them and setting them up for failure long term. And so it's just me trying to do the right thing in my head.
So are you then, or will you help men as well at that age, or just they just naturally pivot to you,
Yeah, I
these
mean,
women?
if they come to me, I'll help a man, but like
Uh-huh.
I'm not putting that in my messaging. I'm not really doing much.
Hmm.
Naturally, I think just like I said before, the way I talk, the way I market, I just attract this demographic.
Hmm.
so Joe, I want to throw a comment because I've been doing this a little while too, and one of the things that I can definitely say, and I think you're onto something for sure. And one of the good things about it is that even at that younger age, women are definitely more proactive and they're more into preventative issues, right? Like we're men, unfortunately, me and Lori talk about it
Right.
all the time. We don't fix it till it's broke. So
Yeah,
We're
that's a
hard-headed.
it's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
It's very true.
Yeah, so I don't think you're gonna lose any market share by any stretch of the imagination if you
Mm-mm.
get girls or ladies in their 20s, 30s, and 40s who are open to understanding that concept. They're way more into preventative than we are. But I do want to, because of you did mention it and that demographic that not that you're leaving, but you're kind of pivoting a bit. You did mention that you are interested in detoxifying your body from the damages of past diets. So, what is the toll that this dieting has had over, obviously ladies, but men as well?
Yeah, man, you said that super well too. I mean, we renamed the business from Hoye Fit to Diet Detox because that's my whole mission. And what I see is number one, mentally, like the relationships that get created or transformed in a negative way through diets is so harmful long term, right? People thinking that they can't have carbs, people thinking that they can't have anything over 1,300 calories, people thinking they can't have something specific, you name it, I think is harmful. And then number two, I think when we say the word diet, if you guys are anything like me, my head's going to the massively restrictive, non-sustainable, trendy ones that we all know the name of. And I mean, if we can't sustain it, probably shouldn't do it in the first place. If they're massively restrictive, we understand, yeah, it's going to create weight loss, but we also understand we need to be a little bit more specific than weight loss, right? Because when we're losing weight, we can lose body fat, which is cool. That's amazing. We want that. But we can also lose muscle. And those really restrictive diets are helping you lose muscle. And you know what else is helping you lose muscle? You being a female over the age of 30. You're naturally doing that. And so speeding up that process is just working against you so hard. And I want to work against that process.
How does, I guess, strength training factor into what you do for women? Because a lot of women are resistant, for lack of a better word, to building muscle.
You don't say. Um, Resistant to resistance training. Yeah,
Yes.
it plays a huge role. And I think that, and maybe you guys can shift my perspective or somebody will prove me wrong along the way, but I think that's one of my hardships is like I'm a semi-muscular guy. And so for me to tell a woman like, hey, you got to get in the gym and you got to lift like me, that to them tells them, well, if I lift like Joe, I'm going to look like Joe. And I don't
Mm.
want to look like Joe. So that's tough. We got to break the belief and reshape it. But yeah, it's huge because when you use that muscle, you signal to your brain that you've got to keep it or build more, hopefully.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, very true. And, it's impossible for women to look like you.
Right.
I mean, unless they're really, really strength training hard and lifting a lot of weight or taking drugs.
Well, that was just gonna say that's what
Yeah.
they're doing.
Yeah,
That's what you
Yeah.
it's like a combination of all of the above.
Yeah,
Um, and the
exactly.
thing is, like our skeletal systems are just shaped differently. And so when a woman gains muscle, that's going to give her that shape that I would say most women are after. Um, and the thing is, like when I talk to women, they're like, I don't really need to lose weight. I just want to tone or I just want to define. It's like, well, guess what? If you want to tone or define, you're toning or defining your muscles. And if you have none, you're not going to do it. So you got to build some.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't know how to help you with that situation because I think me and Lori talk about this all the time. It's just amazing. I don't know if it was something that we're a little bit older than you, and we have these during the 80s. It was just thought of that it was gonna make you bulky and you're gonna look like a man and a this, that, the other. I think it's coming around, honestly. I mean, I'm on
Yeah, I do
Instagram a
too.
lot, and
Yeah.
it's being shown that there's nobody's scared of the weights. Well, I should say nobody's scared of it, but the younger folks are
Younger
kind of,
generation.
yeah, and which would play into your new model. So yeah, maybe that
It would be
they'll be
helpful. Yeah.
representative for the older folks that see that and they're doing it and it's a safe thing.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Like, so, I mean, my wife's a perfect example. That girl is strong. She is strong and she's got a lot of muscle. And like, it just makes me super excited for when she's older, she's going to be so healthy,
Mm-hmm.
like metabolically, that she's going to have so many less problems. But then I think just because I've been doing this for so long that I do have women in my circle that are 50, 60, 80, and they lift hard and they've got muscle. And
Nice.
because of that, their life is so much easier and also more enjoyable than I would say Gen Pop.
Mm. I'm curious too. Obviously, we're talking about the weights. What's the focus on diet, generally speaking?
So again, right, detoxifying the damage that diets have done. I said most of these diets, if we add up the average calories, they're going to put you on like 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 calories. And I always like to use the example, two examples. I used to have a border collie. She was 42 pounds, right? Small little dog. She was eating 1,100 calories a day. And
Whoa.
then, yeah, and then I had a nephew. He's grown up at this point, but he was like 3 feet tall. And at 3 feet tall, I did his TDEE. That boy was burning 1,200 calories a day. And it's like, look, if you're not 42 pounds and you're not 3 feet tall, it stands to reason that you probably need a whole lot more calories than that. And so the first thing that we do is really start to break down the belief that eating small amounts of food is serving you. So we'll tell somebody like, look, based on the calculations, you should be eating 1,800, 2,000, 2,200 calories a day. And no, we're not going to bring somebody up to that in one day, but the goal is to get them there because when we do, everything changes. The shape of their body, their ability to gain and retain muscle, their energy, their sleep, their mood, you name it. And oftentimes their hunger comes back as they eat more food.
What types of foods do you recommend for women, and even men too, to begin to create optimal health, a lean physique?
Yeah. My favorite one is the one that they enjoy eating, right?
Ah,
Because
yes.
if somebody doesn't like what they're doing, be it food, exercise, chances are they're not going to stick to it for too long. So, number one, I'm only going to tell people to eat what they like. But to answer your question, really, Lori, um, I like to prioritize protein, right? Um, Aiming for probably like goal body weight in pounds in grams of protein is a great place to be. Again, do you have to be there tomorrow? And if not, you're a failure? No. I just want to see you making effort and we'll help you get there slowly. And then the other thing that might shock a lot of people, carbs, right? Especially for women in midlife. And it's one of the first things we'll apply if somebody comes to me and they're like, Joe, and so if there's any 40, 50, 60-year-old women listening right now, if you're not sleeping well, have some complex carbs before bed
Hmm.
and then message me. It'll change your sleep.
Define
It's
complex carbs for us, because I know sometimes we are a little bit confused about that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because like for you and I, it's probably super simple, but then we forget that it's not. So sweet potatoes, oats, brown rice, carbs that digest slower than others, right? And so the ones that wouldn't digest slowly would be like white bread, candy, fruits, things like that.
Gotcha, gotcha. And do you put a time limit on the time that they should eat as far as before bed? Is there any limitations on the exact hour that they or hours before sleep that they should eat these complex carbs?
Yeah, I know there's arguments to be made here, and I'm totally open to them because we understand that when you're sleeping, you should be resting and just resting, right? Instead of digesting. And so if I'm telling somebody to eat before bed, they're digesting rather than resting, and their body's working when it should be recovering. But I think that just doing the really simple things oftentimes works better than getting overcomplicated. So if it doesn't mess with somebody's sleep, I have clients that are really, really successful. And if they want, they can eat right until they go to bed.
that's great. Yeah, I mean, what would you say about somebody who wants to go on a carnivore diet with no carbs at all? What kind of advice would you give that person?
That's a tricky one.
This is
I
when we need
generally,
video because your face said it all. But go ahead.
Yeah.
yeah, you can put just that.
Yeah.
Um, so again, like I don't like to tell people there's a right and a wrong way to eat. And you know
Mhm.
what? Like there are people that are publicly saying they've been on carnivore for a long period of time. And so apparently it works for them. But I think that for every one person that eats carnivore, there's probably, and this is just a guess, there's probably 100 people that carnivore is not going to work for long term. And so if you're one of those 100, I mean, test it if you don't want to take my experienced advice, but I'm going to tell you I told you so. I just don't think it's going to work long term. And again, it goes back to the same conversation of if you can't do it long term, you probably shouldn't do it at all.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Yeah. And, and I think that in denying certain types of foods like carbohydrates, I think it's causing more stress for a lot of people
I agree.
than, and if you're not eating in excess, then you're fine. Carbs in excess, you're fine.
Anything, yeah.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
you say
Yeah.
stress, Lori, do you mean like stressful in life because there's a brownie that you want to eat and you can't, or stressful on your body?
Both,
Yeah.
actually. So
Yeah.
psychologically and physically, right? So psychologically, you're stressed because you really want to eat carbs, and then the cortisol rises and has an effect on your weight, in fact, if over time. But, but psychological stress has more of an impact than I would say anything, in terms of if you're under, say, you have a lot of children, you work 8 hours a day, you come home and you have to take care of your children, you don't have time to exercise, et cetera, et cetera. That's some serious stress, and that's going to cause weight gain as well.
You nailed it.
How do you advise somebody in that situation? What would you recommend?
Eating more and doing less.
Ah,
Just, I mean, going against everything we've been taught and told,
mm-hmm.
but which is hard, right? Because if everybody's saying one thing and we assume that everyone's succeeding from that one thing, it's so hard to tell yourself to go against the grain and do something that in that form of logic doesn't make sense. Um, and so that's where I have a really hard time, where we get a new client, it's like, hey, you're eating 1,200 calories, you're exercising 7 days a week, I assume, or I know that you assume that should be working, but let's look at the data. Like, you've been doing this for how long? 6 months. Great. And you've gained 4 pounds?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So it's probably not working, right?
It is
Yeah.
probably not muscle.
No, I guarantee you, no, it's
Yeah.
not muscle. Um, and so if we want a different outcome, we need to take different actions. And so explaining that kind of it gets the ball rolling, but it's still a battle until they really trust the process for 7 to 14 days and they eat a little bit more food and they exercise a little bit less. And you know what? Maybe the scale doesn't change, but their body does, right? Changes shape, changes how it feels, changes how it sleeps. And once they see those positive things, that's a lot of times when they're sold and they're like, okay, there's something to this. This guy's not totally crazy, maybe a
Yeah,
little.
no. Yeah, no, that aspect of going against what we've been conditioned to understand is just it's tough. It's definitely tough, and that's in any walk of life. We live in a world where social media hijacks a lot of these things, and there's a lot of echo chambers that are going on. What do you think
Hmm.
are or one, you don't have to name many if they don't come to mind. What's the biggest myth? And I know you've dispelled a couple of them today. So another myth that you think that the audience should know that they should just disband and not even bother with at this point.
Supplements.
Oh,
That's it. Just,
so
just go ahead.
yeah, no, yeah. Well, I'll let you expand. Yeah, I was gonna say which part of supplements, because that is a
Yeah.
very very controversial topic. We've had many different guests on the show who have definitely had varied opinions on it. So yeah, we'd love to hear yours.
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Supplements are great with an asterisk. And that asterisk is if you're doing the foundational things that create results,
Right.
right? And I mean, I almost feel like you can't argue this because when you type in the word supplement to Google and you look at the definition, it says something that enhances the benefits of something else, right? And so it only stands to reason that if somebody is doing nothing else, then a supplement is going to enhance the benefits of nothing. So nothing's going to happen. So
Mm.
like we need to do the foundational shit first.
Mm. So yeah, I mean, I can definitely get on board with that because my whole idea of any supplementation really is to supplement food because our food supply has been
Mhm.
weakened and damaged, and for whatever reason, if you want to get down that rabbit hole. But yeah, we want to supplement so that we get the nutrients that have been depleted. Now, yeah, so that was kind of my thing. But like you said, if you're not doing anything and expect the supplement to change something, that's interesting theory that I don't know if there's any basis in anything.
Yeah, for sure. But I want to agree with you there too. Like, I'm not saying that I don't take supplements. You guys should see my morning routine. There's like 12 different pills I take. It's stupid. But it's because everything else is in place and I'm not taking like fat burners and nootropics and all
Right.
sorts of things. Like, I'm taking
Right.
creatine, I'm taking protein, I'm taking multivitamins and fish oil. It's just stuff for my health. It's not to
Creatine.
change. Yeah,
That's excellent. That is so, it's great for everybody at any age, really, but mostly if you're over 40. You
hmm
have a ways to go, Joe.
yeah, thank God. I got 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's actually great for your age too, in terms of muscle building, etc.
There's a
And
lot of I'm not up to date on the study, so I'm probably going to butcher this, but there's a lot of links to brain health as well, yeah?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it's shown to be very beneficial for cognition, prevention, they think of Alzheimer's, etc.
Which goes back to the conversation we had in the beginning, like the things you do in your 20s and 30s, that's going to affect
Mm-hmm.
you in your 50s and 60s.
Right.
you know,
Yes.
before we wrap, I guess since we're on this topic, and I think this is a actual opportunity for the audience to get an opinion of two people, being Lori and you, Joe. Brands, because I know Lori is
Mm.
awesome at keeping up with all the best brands of supplementation out there.
Thank you.
And yeah, if you could share a little bit about who you guys are involved with as far as brands, and also in a way that I would like to see whether or not the idea of like the synthetic components of these supplements. I see a lot of companies who are saying that they're basically derived from actual food. I just want to
Hmm.
see both your opinions on that, and then we can jump into the wrap stage.
Yeah, I would say anything derived from food is going to be better than anything made in a lab. Are there exceptions? Probably. I just can't think of them. This is also this is also probably the part where I should say that I really love First Form because they send me supplements every month, and it's true, I do. Um, but at the same time, like I'm not tied only to a supplement brand. I like their protein. I think that they have pretty darn good ingredients, and their stuff tastes good
Yeah,
for the
they
most
do.
part.
Yeah.
But also, like, there's some things that First Form just doesn't make. So I'll have clients that are like, hey, you know what? I want protein with no additives, no flavors, nothing. And First Form doesn't do that. So then I'll recommend somebody else. But as a whole, I think First Form's really got a lot of good stuff.
Cool.
I don't represent brands, but what I personally use, a couple of them, would be Life Extension Foundation. They do a lot of excellent research, and they change their formulation with the research that they find, and they're not expensive. So I found through the decades them to be excellent.
Mm.
Um, Pure Encapsulations is another one. Trying to think of another one. Doublewood is one. There's a whole list of quality supplements, but always making sure that they're third party tested. That's really important. And it will
That is
say,
super important.
yeah, and it will say on the package.
Well, no, thank you both for that. I always pick
Hmm.
Lori's brain, so I get the selfish. I text her out of nowhere, "What about this?" And
Yeah.
she'll give me good recommendations. So
And
thank
send you pictures of it.
you. Yeah, exactly.
Are you the
Uh,
supplement pro, Lori?
No, I'm not. No,
Okay.
I'm like you. I take supplements and, as part of, I guess, to enhance my health
Yes.
versus what you were describing earlier, which is if you don't got it, if you're not doing it, supplement's not really going to be that beneficial.
Right.
yeah, definitely. So, Joe, you've been
Yeah.
fantastic. It was a pleasure having you on the
Yes.
show. Could you do us a favor and just tell us all your, social media handles, your website, how we can get in touch with what you're doing, how we can watch this pivot in real time, and if anybody needs your assistance, how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Before that, I just want to take a second and thank you guys, right? It's super clear to me when people have just the most solid intentions and are doing this because they want to see people do well. And that's super clear to me. So I hope that all of your listeners can see that as well and really take
Mhm.
what you say as gospel and something that they can trust because
Thank
I
you,
don't think
Joe.
that everyone does that. You're welcome. Thank you.
I appreciate
Um,
that.
but to answer your question, everybody can find me online. Super easy to Google. My name is Joe Hoye. I'll pop up everywhere. You can find me Facebook or Instagram is Joe Diet Detox. And then if anybody wants to work with me, I actually want to make it really easy if it's okay with you two. Um, what I'd like to do is give one listener 3 months of free coaching. And so what I think I'll do is I'll make a form. I'm going to have a name, a phone number, an email box to fill in. If you're the winner, that's how I'm going to contact you. So you can't fudge that. And
Mhm.
then I'm hoping a lot of people apply. Like I hope this resonated and we can get some people out of the diet cycle. So if so, I'm going to need your reason as to why you think you should be the winner of the 3 months of free coaching. And that's how I'm going to choose the winner. So we'll put that link in the show notes, hopefully. And I'll choose somebody to get 3 months of free coaching.
That's great.
Sounds great.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I appreciate that. And obviously, anyone who listens to the show knows it's definitely worth throwing your hat in the ring for that. And yeah, no,
Hmm.
we appreciate having you on today.
Thank you guys.
All right, have
Thank
a
you,
great rest
Joe.
of the day.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of This Podcast Burns Fat. We're so excited to have you as a listener, and we're hoping that you really enjoyed the content as well. And if you did, please run over to iTunes and provide a rating and or review. It will go a long way in helping us continuously build our listenership up so that we can provide you with excellent content regarding fat loss, weight management, and just an overall healthy lifestyle. Thanks so much. Have a great night.